Yo, what is going on, people? It is episode 14, I think, of Healing with Sam. Welcome back. It's been a little while. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone is enjoying the ride. I think the last video I made, I was saying, it's been a little while since I've done anything, recorded anything. It's been an even longer while again since then. I think I've had the last 6 or 7 weeks of just stepping back from all of that. Little bit of time inwards. There's been some big changes happening, some big shifts, some big expansions, a little bit of a death, rebirth situation going on, which is always interesting. But yeah, feeling good, coming through the other side. And so time to get back to the story of healing from cystic fibrosis. So where were we? I think we were somewhere in the midst of the 2-3 year period of diving into all that repressed emotion, the wild ride that took me on after the first time doing ayahuasca. And so today I think we will arrive at the point, this was nearly 2 years ago in February of 2024, a crucial part of the journey. Real cool part of the story. So this is the part of the journey where I transitioned from working through all of my own repressed emotions, beyond that into ancestral stuff that had been carried into me, and how that relates to the healing journey and how that relates to the genesis of the disease, it would seem. It's the way it seems to have unfolded. Interesting, fascinating, and again, for many people, this might just sound, ridiculous if you have no sort of lived experience of these kind of deep emotional processes taking place within yourself, and then even beyond yourself, and things that are carried into you from previous generations or even past lives or whatever, it gets weird. But yeah, just go with me. Some of you will have experience of this, and so we'll be able to connect to this a bit more, but for some it might just be what are you talking about? But yeah, make of it what you will. So February 2024, I go to Mexico for a 9-day training retreat as part of the course I was doing, Neo-Emotional Release, which is the therapy I'm now doing. Cool how this came about. So it had been 2 or 3 years of diving deep into all of my repressed emotions, and then I seen an advert on Instagram for this training, for this course with the Neo-Emotional Release Institute, and it's just showing this video of some guy out going through a process, this huge cathartic release, and I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing for the last 2-3 years, most days. And I was like, oh, that looks interesting. So looked at it, scrolling through the website, and about halfway down there's just this image of a hand like that, and it was the exact same image of a tattoo that I had a week before, which was designed for me by some guy in Sri Lanka a year before. And so I was like, say no more. I understand. Signed up to do the course, and then a few months of online stuff, and then we're in Mexico for in-person training, February 2024. Just to reflect on that, one of the most beautiful, powerful, just incredible experiences of my life. There was about 60 of us there in this beautiful sort of retreat space in the jungle in Mexico. And it's 9 days of sort of learning the technique and going into processes with each other, taking each other, guiding each other into these processes. And just obviously everyone there has a certain amount of experience with these processes within themselves. And so, we're going deep. There were some wild things going on, and just the beauty of it all, the connection, something I'd never experienced before. I'm someone who generally likes needs a lot of time and space for myself. The whole time I was there for those 9 days, I didn't want to be away from the group for a single second. Anytime I had to go off to go do physio or whatever, I just wanted to come back to the group, And I've never experienced that before. So that was really beautiful. So shout out everyone who was there and part of that and part of this moment. So one day, David, the guy running it, shout out David, because this is crucial part of the story and a part of the journey of healing. So big shout out to David for this. One day he was doing a sort of demonstration or something, and he was saying, is there anyone who has some sort of chronic illness? And so a few people put their hands up. And this girl, he said to this girl, and she was like, oh yeah, I have some issue with my thyroid or something. And he goes, thyroid's easy to anyone else. And so I put my hand up and he said, yeah. And I said, like, oh, I've got this disease, cystic fibrosis, blah, blah, blah. So he got me up onto the table at the front. We were talking about it, and I was explaining a little bit about the disease and it's genetic and blah, 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 and the issue with the mucus and the lungs. And he was like, okay, so it's a hereditary disease, so it's something that's been brought in from both sides, so from your mother and your father. And obviously through his lens is looking at like the emotional, sort of what's been brought in emotionally from each side that is lying at the root of the disease. Now, I don't even know what his intention, actually reflecting his intention was for then taking me through this process. But anyway, he laid me down on the table, took me through the sort of like the process of neo-emotional release. And just out of nowhere, quite quickly as well, I started feeling my father's anger. At this point, I'd never experienced feelings of someone else or like anything ancestral or anything like that, But I was just very aware that it was not my anger, it was my father's anger. And so he took me through that, and then like that passed, and then I started feeling my mother's self-hatred. So my mother's sort of anger, hatred towards herself. And again, I never experienced anything like this, and I was just like, okay. Anyway, he took me through the process. That was that, blah, blah, blah. And kind of just moved on with the day and with the week and everything. But that was a huge moment. I didn't realize it at that time. I don't know what I even thought about that at the time. I think I was kind of just like, okay, that was interesting. From that moment, the sort of understanding and the journey of healing completely shifted, and this sort of was picked up then, I think 2 months after this, in April, I went and did ayahuasca, I think for the third time at that point. And all of that just got opened up big time, And since then, a large part of my emotional process has been a process of working through integrating ancestral stuff. To the point where it's been crazy lately. Like we've gone back to what I believe is the root of this disease within me. Both on my father's side and my mother's side, I've sort of gone back, processed things on my dad's feelings, like through to then his father and experiences he had, which I believe is the sort of like genesis of this, like, what is now manifested as disease in my life, to the point where, I won't share this whole story yet because this is a couple of years down the line, and this is like recently this has been happening, to the point where I feel I've cleared, I've processed, I've integrated everything on my father's side. And now I've recently opened up a process on my mother's side, stretching back to my great-grandmother on my mother's side of, I'll get into that on another episode. But that moment in Mexico, it's funny, like, it's funny to just reflect on this, like, how these moments just come to be, the perfection of me being there, me raising my hand, David not wanting to do the process with the girl before, and then picking me, and then like having that experience. Again, shout out to David for that, and also everyone else who was in attendance. Like, that probably couldn't have unfolded if not for that container that existed with all of us there and what we created there as a group. Beautiful, powerful. I've done it again, where I've hit record and not really knowing what I want to say about this. There's too much to say. And especially with where I'm at right now, with that whole ancestral journey, is crazy. It's been, a wild ride, going in toward that. and processing things that have happened to my father and my grandfather, and then my mother and her grandmother, you know, processing experiences that they'd had, and then the sort of different feelings that have resulted from that and have been carried forth now into me over these generations. Yeah, I don't know what I want to say. It's been crazy. It's been crazy. Yeah, I'll save more of the details of that for a later episode. But yeah, that was a real crucial part of the journey. The unlocking of the ability to feel and process ancestral sort of like emotions and whatever that's been carried into me, you know, energy. I don't know, feels heavy. I'll just end it there. These episodes never go how I want them to go, never say what I want to say. But that's what it is. Yeah. Nice one. Take it easy. See you next time. I don't know what happened. I've just been like, just as I've reflected on that, it's all just, I've just gone like that. Ooh. Yeah, bye-bye.